Hello and welcome to Melbourne for round 4 of Division 3. It's the rerun, it's Electric Boogaloo 2.0 for Australia after the chaos that we had with safety cars in round 1 a few weeks ago. We're back again for a rerun and hopefully it goes a whole lot smoother this time today. My name's Tom Mack and I'm joined by K-Tematic.
How is everyone doing today? Definitely very interesting what happened in the first round. We could probably spend 30 minutes talking about what went wrong and how it affected the results. But basically, so much went wrong that the results meant nothing in the end. So many people ended up crashing out in areas they weren't supposed to. So now we're here on this supposed to be break week for the rest of the league. But the Division 3 guys are at it again in Australia. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it differs this time around compared to what it was in the first round. I actually don't have any of the qualifying results from the first round, but I think I might try and pull that up here because that would be very interesting to compare.
Yep, I think we've obviously seen a sort of breakaway group at the top of the standings. The likes of Dingo, Timolele, Hamelin, Shamblizi and Codeman and the two Hasses. Certainly outperforming the rest of the grid so far. There definitely seems to be a breakaway pack, and then the midfield and the lower half of the table a little bit closer together than the top of the field. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously there's been talks of transfers as well, which makes it all a little bit more interesting, as this could be the last race for some rivalries to play out. And what better track to do it than Melbourne? I absolutely love this track, and it looks like, well, you'd expect the weather to be in fine form. We're in a practice session at the moment, we're just waiting for that to wrap up, and then we will get into qualifying. We've got going a little bit early. Make sure you use your Twitch Primes as well, it helps everyone in the league. We're going to put it into a little pot. I'm going to keep on plugging it, because why not?
Definitely. Like you said, that top breakaway group, at the moment it's looking like the two Mercedes, Hamlin, and Shamblizi have been the ones who've shown some great pace over the last couple of races. But Hamlin, throughout the beginning of the season, has seen some misfortune that now sees him, I believe, P5 in the standings. Let me double check that real quick. He's actually P4, but he definitely should be a lot higher than that. He's 30 points off the top spot, even though he definitely has the pace to be competing with Timolele. But he had some misfortune in the first couple races. He had a lot of penalties, but hopefully now that's all behind him and he can start to make up some points on the leaders ahead. Timolele, though, we also actually let's mention Raw 13 is now gonna stand in for this race from Division 2. He is joining the Ferrari team, which was the only empty team in Division 3. But yeah, so we'll see how he shapes up and compares to the rest of the Division 3 pack.
Got a nice full grid for today, only a couple guys missing, and like you said, Raw 13 joining the division from Division 2. We're unsure of how that's going to affect Div 2 as it stands, but hopefully Div 2 remains competitive, and it should make Div 3 even more competitive.
Yeah, it was a very last-minute change. I think it was like about an hour before that he requested to be moved up, but we got that situated now. Nothing's for certain, though. Depending on how this race goes, we'll make a decision and see where people might end up after this week. It's a bit unfortunate, though, that it's happening so late, because at the moment, Timolele is at the top of the leaderboards, and there is talk of him being moved up to Division 2, because as we have seen multiple times, he has quite a significant pace advantage over the rest of the field, excluding Hamlin, possibly. As Hamlin was actually able to challenge him for the most part in Canada, and Hamlin actually ended up taking the win after Timolele made a mistake. So let's see how this turns out for this track. This is definitely not an easy track, despite what Codemasters says. This is not at all very easy. The difficulties are a bit skewed.
Yeah, perhaps. It definitely suits some types of drivers. For me, I love this track, and it's probably just purely because I've played it the most out of any. You're starting your new career modes. Always Australia is the first track you come to. I always time trial on this track just to see whether things are feeling right, and we have got loads of people pouring out of the pits. We'll get that up on your screen as soon as possible as the 18-minute qualifying session starts for what will decide the grid for this race.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Looking on board with Cookie right now, he's the first one out, and it looks like he was the first one to start a hot lap as soon as he gets to that start-finish straight. But last time around in Australia, he let Stingo by, actually, but he was quite a bit off the pace. But over the past couple of weeks, he's improved significantly, and as we've seen, he's been able to fight for points positions in these last couple of races. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he compares to the rest of the field now. I believe he was about a second and a half off the qualifying pace of the last person. But I think he's going to be looking to be a bit closer to the rest of the field this time.
Definitely. Big shout out today, obviously, to John Lemon. We kept on criticising, well, Mark kept on criticising his race strategies, and it's fair game, really, but a big shout out to his race engineer, who we've been told is actually his girlfriend. So big shout out to John Lemon's girlfriend, who will be giving him the strategy calls for today, and I hope she's maybe taken some lessons from the first round, the cancelled round 1 of the Division 3 season, and will put in some extra work for him today and hopefully get him further up the field. Of course, his race pace is very good, just sometimes those questionable pit stops ruining his final position.
And like you said, hopefully he gathered some information from that first race. But now looking on board with Dingo, who's definitely going to be a contender for pole position here. Like we said, both those Mercedes very quick in qualifying. He's had some misfortunes though, like for USA an example, where he hadn't been able to set a valid lap. But most of the time he's able to make up for it. So yeah, he's coming around turn 4 right now, and then this right-hander is flat out in F1 cars. This very twisty section, and you end up having to take a lot of curb here. So it's very easy to go a bit wide and get your lap invalidated. That's what you have to do if you want to find a quick time. It looks like he's playing it a bit safe here, which is not a bad idea for a banker lap. I'm sure he's learned a lot from that USA experience. Yeah, so here he comes onto the back straight. Coming up to this very quick chicane here. It's very, very tricky to get right, but if you do, it can gain you tons of time. Nails the first part, misses it a bit in the second, gets a bit squirmy, but he's able to recover. This is looking like a pretty tidy lap so far. Let's see how this third sector pans out for him.
His Sector 1 was beaten elsewhere around, and now also is Sector 2 by someone else. He runs nice and wide there using all of the AstroTurf, gets it turned in for the last couple of corners. A little bit squirmy, like you said, on the exit of the turn 11, turn 12 kink, and runs out nicely onto the main straight across the line for what will be the fastest lap of the session.
22.0. I think we're expecting pole position to be much closer to a 20, to a mid 20, high 20. Cookie sets 23.1. Coming across the line next, we have Yazan and Chamblizi. Chamblizi ends up taking provisional pole, 8/10 quicker than Dingo that lap. And then we have Hamlin coming around the final corner, who's actually invalidated his lap.
Yeah, I'm looking on board with Timolele, of course, what could be his final race in Division 3 before making the move up all purple sectors thus far up to the finishing line to take pole provisionally here in Australia with a 1:20.976.
That is a very solid time for him. I'm actually going to be quite interested to see how Ettore does in this qualifying session. I think he invalidated his first lap, so he went back into the pits, but he has been working on his qualifying pace. As the last couple of races, he's usually qualified outside the top 10, but his race pace is more than made up for his lack of qualifying pace. But it'll be interesting to see how he does today.
Good lap from John Lemon there, a 1:22.1, splitting the Mercedes and the Williams for P4. A good lap for him, waiting obviously on Hamlin to complete a lap. His first one was invalidated, but here's another name that we expect to be right up there, as is Ettore, who struggled to get the laps in the last round at Canada, and he'll hope for better qualifying performances this time round.
Definitely. Chamblizi in PT right now. He's got quite the gap to make up to Timolele if Timolele does stay in Division 3. He's got, I believe, he's only 14 points behind Timolele, despite Timolele taking 2 out of the 3 wins so far. But Chamblizi's been able to take 2 P2s right behind him. So the gap, although after 3 races, it's a little big compared to 3 races, but looking at the end of the standing, if he's able to finish up the season strong, then there's no reason why he can't take that top spot from him. It's just a matter of consistency, but once again, Timolele's pace is just outstanding compared to the rest of the field here.
King Walrus looks to be the next across the line. 2 personal bests, obviously, in the first 2 sectors. Up to the line. What can the man in the Alfa Romeo do? Good enough for P10, currently the second worst time on the grid, but plenty more to set their laps, including Hamlin, of course, who invalidated his first lap. Trickfoot, Codeman on outlap. Ettore still in the pit lane and Dennis the Great also on an outlap.
Yeah, I think as we see here, Cookie, as I mentioned earlier, is now finding himself in the middle of the pack instead of way at the back. I think his qualifying time was a 25 something last time around, or 20, like a high 25, but he's easily shaved off 2 seconds from that time on his banker lap alone. So he's looking like a solid position, both him and his teammate, P6 and 7. So Codeman on a lap right now, coming into this section right here. It can be a little tricky. If you take too much curb, it's very easy to spin. Once again, flat out in the right-hander. Coming up to this next corner here, it's a very quick chicane. You're going to want to take as much curb as possible on the entry and the exit. And if you get the throttle just right, you'll be gaining time all the way up until this corner over here. It's very similar to the last one, but the curb on the first turn can be a bit more deadly. He elects to not use the second part of that chicane's curb, but it can gain you time, but it could also lose you time as it can kind of compromise your exit through the fast chicane. Now it takes a little cautious and invalidates on that second part. That's definitely not something he was looking for, as he still has yet to set a lap in this qualifying session.
Yep, that's not good for Codeman, one of a couple of drivers now to invalidate. Just took way too much off the inside, and it is tempting to do because once you're at that sort of speed, you do just want to throw it in, and sometimes it's not the best choice because obviously you can take way too much of the corner, and it's kind of out of your control at that point when you're carrying that much speed. Dennis the Great on an
coming
fast
up that
lap.
same position, see if he's able to keep it valid here. Purple sector 2 takes this really cautiously, doesn't like to use any of the curb, which can lose you a lot of time actually. So we'll see how that ends up panning out for him in his final lap time here. But purple in sector 2, so this is not a slow time by any means, but that compromise that he made in that fast chicane could end up costing him multiple tenths. Coming around this final corner now, this is very, very tricky. He's going to get a bit of dirty air from, oh, that's very unfortunate for him. His run's been a little bit compromised by Raw 13, the Division 2 racer. But he still finds himself in P6. That's a very good lap considering.
Ooh, and then Raw 13, I think, maybe wanted to start a fast lap. Had to really get out the way there and damaged his front wing in doing so. Lucky not to be out. It looked like a very hard hit against that outside wall into turn 1. So that's a frustration for him because that would have been his fast lap.
I personally did not see it, but I definitely heard it. The collision sounds in this game are a little fabricated, if we say that. They don't sound too real, but they're definitely very noticeable. So he's going to be looking to get back into the pit, get that wing fixed, and moving out of the way now for Yazan. We still have, I think we have Hamlin, who's on a flying lap, on a flying lap now, but he's also invalidated that lap as well. Coming out of that second part of the fast chicane, the same area that Codeman got invalidated. It's very unfortunate for him. He's not looking like he's in a great position right now. He might have to compromise his final run there in order to actually just get a lap on the board, because anything is better than starting last place. He's actually going to be starting another lap here, it looks like.
Going to go straight onto one. We're following Trickfoot coming up to that tricky turn 11, turn 12 complex.
Misses the second part of that chicane, but that seems to be the right decision at the moment, as many people have been validated there.
There's a bit of a risk. You've got to be so careful on the throttle not to overdo it and not to back out so much that you lose so much time. But of course, at this stage, especially for those drivers who are yet to set a lap, and nearly loses the back end coming around turn 15. Gets onto the main straight with plenty of road to spare. The DRS goes on, he'll come up to the line. It is at least a lap, and that's the point I was going to make, is at this stage, with only 7 minutes on the clock, you just want to get a lap in.
Yeah, so I think we have Hamlin sets a new fastest lap, 4 tenths quicker than his previous. That is going to be extremely tough for people to beat. But looking on board with Hamlin now, he seems to be good coming up this fast chicane. This is where this has gotten him so many times before. Hits the first corner right, second corner, barely gets by it, but he nails that part. I think he was just on the edge there of getting that invalidated, but he's going to be seeing an amazing lap time here, considering that he was able to nail that. As long as he keeps his third sector clean. He goes a little wide, doesn't invalidate him, luckily. Coming around this final corner, compromises the exit a little bit to get a better entry into this long right-hander going on to the final straight. Now let's see what his lap time is coming across. That's only a 22.5. At least it's something, but I'm sure he's going to be looking for more.
Definitely. Codeman, the only man without a lap time thus far, but he is on a fast lap. So the current order as it stands, with basically only enough time to squeeze in one more run after their current run. We've got plenty of drivers out on a lap, including that midfield pack between P5 and P9. But they've got to start getting their laps in.
We also saw during that time when Hamlin crossed the line, Torre was just a bit behind him. He ended up setting a 22.3, which is puts himself in P6. So that's a lot better than where I believe he started P13 last time around here in Australia. But Codeman's at the purple sector too, nails the fast chicane. He's on for a very good lap here, I believe. Coming up this corner here, it's going to be very tricky. It's really easy to understeer and go wide onto that curb, but he hits it just right. And just carry as much speed as here through possible. He leaves a little bit of time on the table. He can take that out wider if he needs to. And here he comes around that final corner onto the start finish straight. Just watch the car rotate around that last corner. Very satisfying to watch, in my opinion. And he sets a time comparable to that of his Haas teammate, just 3/10 behind, finds himself in P3. But even then, in P3, still a second off of the pole time. That just shows you how much pace Timolele has here. I am certain that he's not at all worried about that top spot being his.
Plenty of time between P1 and P2. Timolele flying at the top. And like I said, what could be his last Div 3 race, and for good reason really when you're setting times like that. But for now, it looks like everyone's going to dart back into the pit lane and prepare for their final run, get their fuel load sorted, get a new set of tyres onto the car in preparation for the all-important last lap.
Definitely, and I think a 20.5 would have, even in Division 1, would have been right around the top 10. So that's an amazing time. It's just a matter of being consistent in the race and being able to show that race pace, which he has definitely not lacked so far. Just one mistake in Canada that cost him the win there.
Raw 13 on his lap, currently P15. He'll certainly want to improve. Obviously, he's come down from Div 2 on short notice, but he set 2 personal bests in Sector 1 and 2 as he rounds the final corner, using a nice bit of the rubber strip on the outside and up to the line. What is a much improved time of 1:22.1.
It's a very solid lap from him. I think it'll be very interesting to see him fight for the lead. Coming from Division 2, he wasn't often fighting for points positions, which is why he has to be moved down, but I think he'll enjoy himself a bit more down in Division 3 fighting for the podium position if it turns out that way in the race. I believe we have Dingo on a flying lap right now as well. He finds himself in P4, hoping to maybe get a little bit closer to his teammate. Coming around this final corner, and like I said, this last corner here, it's very. Oh, he's actually going to head into the pits, it looks like. So I'm not happy with this time, or that was just an incident. But I don't think he's going to have enough time to go into the pits and then come back out, do an out lap, and still make it to the line in time. So that might be his final lap.
Going to have to be very quick at getting a turnaround here, of course. If you imagine you've got to get out of the pits with about 1 minute, well, 1 minute 40, perhaps a little bit more, of course. You've got to factor in the time of actually getting the tyre warmer blankets off and then out of the pit lane, and then of course you've got to be keeping those tyres nice and wear free on your out lap, because of course if this is going to be your fastest lap time, these are going to be the tyres you're going to start on if you're inside the top 10.
This is John Lemon here coming up to the turn 3 hairpin. Takes that pretty nicely, compromises the exit so you can get a better run through turn 4, carry as much speed as possible, flat out through this right-hander, and then you go to this little bit of a twisty section here. That's not many corners here. They're all pretty much flat out, and then you come up this chicane, taking as much curb as possible. He takes that very nicely. Coming up now to this tricky braking zone, and a curb that can really unsettle the car if he takes too much. He does take quite a lot of it, but it doesn't seem like he's been affected by it too much. Let's see where his time is at now, coming across this sector split. He's 2.5 tenths up, goes purple in sector 2.
But then invalidates, I think.
Yes. he did invalidate at that second part of the chicane. Very unfortunate for him. A 2/10 improvement could have easily seen him up into P5.
He'll be gutted with that, but of course, like we said, he's got very strong pace and over one lap indeed, but so important to make sure that you're able to get the laps in when it counts, and for him that will be his qualifying session over and done with. For the others on fast laps, of course,
King Walrus actually spun at the exit of turn 4, and so his lap is invalidated and his qualifying session is over as well.
and the main man himself, Timalele, I believe, now out on a fast one as he goes through the end of Sector 1 now, the swimming pool car park, around turn 5.
Coming across the sector line, that's not a purple sector, he's still a 10th up on his old time. But he's not under much threat here in qualifying. I think he could easily run away with it, and all he has to do really is stay mistake-free throughout the race and just make sure he actually crosses the finish line. But track penalties here can actually be a big issue because track limits are very harsh, and you can often find a lot of time right on the edge of those track limits. So the race order that will finish will likely be shuffled around a bit by penalties, as they're very easy to accumulate here, much like USA and Canada.
Timalele 2/10 down as of Sector 2, so it certainly probably won't be an improvement unless he can really dig in and find some good time here in the final sector. But he gets on the grass.
Runs onto the grass.
And then into the wall as well, loses an end plate. Fortunately enough for him, with so little time left in the session, it looks like he will be on pole despite that calamitous last lap, quite frankly, but it doesn't matter when you're that far in front, really. Unless the two Haas's, of course, who had a really good performance in Canada. A bit of a boring race for him, but a good result nonetheless. Sometimes you need a race like that, and they'll be hoping perhaps for more of the same here if they can keep it 2 and 3 on the grid.
Chamblizi, gets a little bit squirmy at the exit, decides to bail out of the lap. I think he'll be happy with P2, but Codeman maybe has something to say about that. He's only 3/10 off his teammate here, coming into the same part that his teammate lost the back end, and he nails it. So coming across the sector, we're already in Sector 3, so we don't have quite the reference as to how this time is looking.
Certainly looked very tidy through the fast chicane and up to the hairpin.
Just lets the car rotate around, use the throttle, and just pray that you don't understeer. And he seems to have hit that pretty well. And coming across the line, and Ettore is actually taking that position from him, but he takes it right back, only just a couple hundredths off of his teammate. Ettore, though, that's a very solid lap considering where he was before. He's going to be much happier with that, and he finds himself in P4, and I believe that is all we have for this qualifying session.
Indeed it is. That wraps it up then. Timalele will start in pole position with the two Hasses, Chamblizi and Codeman, splitting row 1 and 2. Ettore, the final man, on row 2. In the Renault, Dingo in P5. Raw making his Division 3 debut in P6, a good performance for him. King Walrus in the Alfa Romeo behind Dennis the Great, P8. John Lemon, P9. Cookie, P10. O'Hay in the first of the Williams in P11. Hamlin, AJ Hayter, Trickfoot, Jock James, and then Yazan at the back of the grid. I think Yazan will be very disappointed with that performance. He's been a solid midfield driver and in fact very close to his teammate John Lemon. But to find himself at the back of the grid, perhaps things just didn't quite fall his way today.
Yeah, and looking at the times here, as you can see, from P6 to P11, just 2/10 separate those positions. So I think this is going to make for a very interesting race, as well as those 2 through 4 positions only covered by about 2/10 as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the race here, and let's see how the safety car turns out. Hopefully it's working all right this time and not stopping in the middle of the straight. But
well, that's of course the other factors we haven't spoken about yet. Is we've spoken about the track limits, we've spoken about how this is a rerun, but the reason for the rerun, of course, was the absolute the insanity of the safety car issues that we experienced here. Plenty of shenanigans with Bernd Meyerlander at the wheel in what was shaping up to be a fantastically exciting race, and unfortunately after the 3, 4, maybe 5 safety cars by the end of it, the results were simply not safe to stand anymore.
Many people, the safety car for some reason on the back straight and the main straight just decided to stop occasionally, and many people just hit the back of it because obviously the safety car is not expected to just stop in the middle of the track. But
Indeed. There's
the winner
confirmation
of
then.
that last race was Dennis the Great, actually. So and he won off virtue of penalties. So he's going to be looking to get somewhere close to that now. But looking at the qualifying time, I think Tim Malele is just going to run away with it.
If he can get a clean
What are your
getaway, of
thoughts?
course, and drive off into the sunset. But he'll be looking for a bit of support from his teammate Dingo, perhaps, who is P5, starting behind a Torre. Because those Mercedes, you often see them in the same frame as each other.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think this first lap is going to be absolutely crucial for Tim Malele. If he's able to keep the lead and keep an entire front wing, then he should be good to just run off with it. But those Haas drivers as well, very consistent. As seen in Canada, they were just chugging along with not many cars around them, so they weren't under much pressure and they weren't putting many people under pressure. It was quite a boring race from them, as we heard from after. But hopefully this time will be a bit more exciting with a Torre in the mix, it looks like.
Indeed, he's had a steady progression of pace. We sort of first saw it in Kota, really, where he unfortunately spun on the last lap, and it could have been a much better result for him than perhaps the standings will reflect now. But a good result in Canada as well, and now here for a rerun of Australia, where some of the guys will already know a few little tips and tricks about the track to really perfect the craft. They can certainly perform better.
So the tire strategies here are actually quite interesting. It's not quite as simple soft medium one stop as many tracks are here in F1 2020 and the 50% races. The soft to medium is possible, but you really have to stretch that soft stint out until those tires are absolutely screaming. Around lap 11 or 12, you're gonna be looking to pit for those mediums. But that I believe is the quickest strategy if you're able to keep your tires in somewhat decent shape. But soft to hard is also a very viable strategy. And people starting outside the top 10, let's take a look now and see what tires they will actually be starting on. Looks like we only have 3 people choosing to start on the alternate strategy, with AJ Hayter, Trickfoot, and Jock James starting on that medium tire. I think they're going to be looking to do a medium to soft here, because medium to hard is a bit slower than soft to hard, which is a bit slower than soft to medium. But the inverse strategies give you a lot of room for error, I would to say, I guess, because it really allows you to just, like for example, this end of the race, you're so much quicker. You can set fastest laps, and you're just absolutely breezing by people on older tires. And I believe now we are joined by Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, doing all right. I thought I wasn't going to make it, but obviously it has some delays, so it's all good, it seems.
Indeed.
All right.
On the formation
You came
lap.
just in time.
Seeing this as a formation lap, but it looks like they're really ready to get this one going.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited personally to see what goes on here. What are your predictions? Is there going to be a first lap safety car?
I'm going to hope there's going to be no safety car this time. I think that would be quite nice. Very interested to see Hamlin way down. I think he qualified second here and took the lead in the first corner last time. So
yeah, but everyone second time around has definitely improved their pace quite a bit. Hamlin, I think, not too happy with his qualifying laps and validated a lot of them. So he's going to have quite the race ahead of him, but I see no reason why he shouldn't be able to finish in the points. So the last little straggler coming to the back of the grid now. I believe that is Trickfoot in the Red Bull. And as we wait now, the cars sit on the grid. Only 3 people on the medium tires. And we have a jump start from AJ Hayter. 3 people at the back there all got jump starts. But it looks like Tim Malele is off to a good start. All the cars appear to be ghosted. And we have 2 people out of the race.
Already, including Ohei, and I was just going to mention that it seems like we're actually going to be in for a remade lobby here due to Chamblizi, I believe, not actually getting into the game. As you can see, he's ghosted currently in P4, so by the looks of it, this one is a no-go.
Yeah, that's
and
very
we are going
unfortunate.
to be restarting.
But also to be expected considering now half the grid is gone. So Division 3, no stranger to technical issues. Back again. Not just Australia, but in Bahrain as well. I believe we had some issues with qualifying and some major desync. But hopefully we can get these fixed in time. So we'll be back with the remade race lobby.
Hopefully, and we'll be back as and when we get that up and running. So thank you for your patience, but we'll be back. Welcome back, and we are ready. They're out on the formation lap. Sorry about that. We had to get a little restart for a couple of disconnects pre-race. I'm joined by Katematic and Mark Hopkins for what should be the rerun of Australia.
This is now the third race in Australia we have set up. So this track clearly does not like us. I don't know what these Div 3 guys have done here, but clearly this is not a fan of us.
Well, hopefully it's all smooth sailing from here on and we get a great race, not interrupted, hopefully with too many safety cars.
And this lobby reset actually kind of makes things interesting because the top 10 now start on completely fresh soft. So the soft to medium strategy becomes so much more viable, which is a quicker option out of the soft to medium versus the soft to hard.
And interestingly, a couple of guys have changed strategies since this. There are definitely 2 more medium runners.
I think, yes. I think Jock James had started on the mediums previously. He is elected to start on the softs this time around. I don't know what changed between then and 15 minutes ago, or between now and 15 minutes ago, but I mean, whatever he thinks will work for him, that's going to be the best option. And I'm actually kind of shocked to not see Hamlin start on those medium tires. We have someone in the grass, looks like.
King Walrus was spun around at the hairpin. I'm not sure how or why, but nevertheless, fortunately enough, it's formation lap, perhaps looking to get a little bit more heat into the tyres.
Yeah, so Hamlin starting on the softs, he's going to have a lot of work to get through, a lot of overtaking to be done in order to get those top points positions that he so deserves.
Here we go then.
As the lights come on, we have Tim Lele at the front of the grid, waiting the light, and there we go. They're off. And it looks like Tim Lele has managed to keep his lead so far. We have Chamblizi taking it ahead of his teammates, but Hamlin finds a way up to P6. Big contact. Hamlin now dropping back down the order, all the way down to P14. And now P15. It's very unfortunate to see. Doesn't look like he has any wing damage.
And Dingo's gone straight on and he's taken out Chamblizi, and that's a terrible start.
Hamlin has been disqualified from receiving too many penalties in the first lap. Wow, that is absolutely terrible. And as we see, Tim Lele already taken a 2.5 second lead. But it looks like Chamblizi has dropped down the order as well. He seems to have spun.
And here comes Torre on Codeman. He's going up the inside. He hasn't made the move stick. He's still got a couple more corners, but Raw 13 taking advantage, and he's got himself up into a podium position. So Torre maybe picking the wrong time to try and make the move, but he is incredibly close now. Be interesting to see if he's going to dive up the inside. And Raw 13 goes up into second, and Torre takes Codeman as well.
Codeman hangs around the outside and runs wide onto the grass, and then spins as well into the wall. And that's going to be a new front wing.
Terrible start for the Haas drivers now.
And a little bit naughty there, using reset to track as well.
Oh,
you can expect.
Definitely going to be a penalty. Oh, and it's
always gone very sideways, and Dingo's going to have a great run down this straight. He's got the slipstream behind Raw 13, and he's done the move already. So a lot of overtakes without DRS here on a track where it's famous to not be able to overtake. And here comes Torre back at Dingo.
Trying to fight back, not quite. Dingo runs deep though. Torre going for the switchback.
Well, that's the second time in 2 laps that Dingo hasn't made that corner. And he's doing okay now, but I do wonder if he might get a couple of post-race penalties for that move that he did on the first lap.
And now it looks like Tim Lele already 5.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. He's going to be winning this race, no problem, as long as he keeps it out of the wall. But the fight for P2 will definitely be very intense.
There was a lot of fighting going on behind him, and you see the first lap 4 seconds quicker. So just goes to show getting a really good start and not have anyone going up
trying to go around the outside of Ohei, but not quite enough. But going up on a straight now, that's going to be an easy move done, it looks like.
And it is.
And Ohei gives it up.
Down to turn 13.
And Dingo
Torre goes around the outside of Dingo.
A little bit of a fight
That's an amazing move there. He just stuck it around the outside, carried so much speed.
He's going to try up the
Dingo
inside.
fighting
Oh,
back, he
never
backs
gonna
out of
happen.
it. Very,
That
very
was-
smart to back out of it there.
Door
And
Although that
unfortunately
would have been
closed.
absolutely chaos.
Unfortunately, him trying that move has just meant that he's had to back out of it so much that he's now nowhere. DRS is enabled now, but he's too far back, it seems.
Yeah, and let's take a look, see how the starting grid compared to what we have now. It looks very different, as a matter of fact. If I can figure out how to pull this up, excuse me. All right, there we go. So Timolele obviously staying in first place, but Raw 13 up 4 positions, and as well as Ettore and Dingo behind him, both gaining a position. Shamblizi, on the other hand, down 3 positions, but Ohe and Yazan, both big gainers. Yazan was, I believe, at the back of the grid, now finds himself in P9. Dennis the Great's going to be looking to take that position right back from him. But obviously we have Hamlin, he's down 4 positions, as well as Codeman at the back of the grid, who had to replace his front wing.
And Trickfoot spun here, and he's struggling to get the car back straight. He's dropped down a huge number of places. Fortunately, he's still +1 up on his original starting place, but I wonder whether the AI is actually taking control of his car. And if he can't get this straightened out, because at the moment it's looking like a real mess. It's about a 14-point turn. Very strange indeed. This could very well lead to a safety car. I'm surprised it hasn't. Fortunately enough, his car has ghosted and he's back on the straight. But he has lost
That was
so
a very
much
long
time.
time.
Oh,
those
and then he's
mediums
lost
are
it
gonna be-
again because of the cold tyres.
Oh, I hate to see that. This race is just not going well for Trickfoot.
Good thing we got it all on camera as well for him to look back on that later on.
Dennis the Great, though, had a little look up the inside of Yazan and decides to think better of it. He's right
Yazan's
up.
had a fantastic start, getting 9 places. But he is under pressure now from the guy who did win this race the first time round.
And yes, it's just absolutely staying within about half a second of him, which is extremely difficult because of the dirty air. And we have a yellow flag. That's Trickfoot once again in Sector 3.
Ooh, Attori's had a very bad exit of that corner. He's slammed into the wall. Luckily, I think for him, well, he is missing the front
Oh, John
right
Lemon.
end
John
brake.
Lemon goes up the inside. Goes way too deep into the gravel. And it looks like Cookie's going to keep that position. He's a bit late on the brakes there, and it just ended up costing him so much time. It would have been an amazing move if he had made it work, though. So the gap's, though, kind of stabilizing at around a second for most of the fields here. But Ettore seems to be trying to close up to Raw 13 now. He knows he has the pace over him. It's just a matter of staying consistent and managing to put in some quick lap times while not making any mistakes.
He's used plenty of
4:13.
overtake as well.
Raw
Ettore.
13 really not got the pace. He's 5 laps in and he's 10 seconds behind. Now, I think he's lost about 2 seconds just on that last lap. So whether he's having to defend for Ettore or he just hasn't got the pace to match Timolele, Timolele must be smiling where he is, knowing he's going to have a gap for a pit stop in not that much time.
And it's fortunate enough because Timolele obviously not bringing the rest of the field with him as he darts out in front by 10 seconds, and Shamblizi was involved in a lap 1 incident, dropping well down the grid to about P7 I believe, now up to P5 and reattaching himself to this, I won't say lead group, it's not the tête de la course as they say in Tour de France, but it is the group behind looking to state their claim for the remaining podium positions, and he's reattaching himself to them.
Dingo's had a really good exit. Ettore opens the DRS and then closes it and then has to reopen it again. Maybe technical difficulties on his side with his steering wheel, but Dingo's right up behind him now. And this battle now for second is really hotting up. We know how much pace Dingo has, and we know how consistent Ettore can be. It'll be interesting to see what they can do for the guy
He's
that's
got the
slowing
overtake
them up.
on. Ettore chooses not to defend. He goes up the inside. It looks like he's making the move stick. He goes a little deep onto the grass. Ettore is looking to fight back here. Doesn't activate the overtake though, and just lets him go. It's just giving him a bit of room for Raw 13 to try and pull away. Dingo goes a bit wide into that corner again.
Gonna have to get on the brakes as well to get round safely without taking a penalty, and then that will compromise his line through the next few corners. Although Ettore runs onto the grass,
really
gets a little bit squiggly, and it allows Chamblizi to get right up his backside, and now to push at the start of Sector 2. Perhaps Ettore here could drop 2 places in just the opening half of the lap.
Chamblizi seems to be having some sort of connection issues. He just lagged back about 4 or 5 tenths there.
And of course,
right up behind Ettore.
Despite the lead of Timolele, picks up a 3-second time penalty, and we've spoken already about the track limits here in Australia being particularly harsh. It could be that that plays a huge factor in this race, no matter what the gap is to the lead.
Chamblizi is going to be looking to make up for his first lap incident. Ettore definitely under a bit of a pressure here, but this is just one big DRS train. It's actually not quite. Ettore seems to have lost the DRS on Dingo.
Oh, Dingo's gone past him.
Dingo passed him on the last lap, I believe, coming up in that first corner.
Yeah.
Chamblizi just gets so much understeer coming out of that corner. Does he have front wing damage? It doesn't look like it.
No, but I do wonder whether he's suffering, and like I said, he was involved in that turn 1 incident. No, he doesn't have any front wing damage, although potentially it's not visible damage. But he may have pushed a little too hard in trying to reconnect himself to this group, and perhaps now settling in for the long haul as the soft tyres begin to scrub away their grip.
King Wars gets a 10-second time penalty for corner kind. It's got to be ahead of the
I believe he's
cut.
spun as well. So yeah,
Timolele
already
gone around, and it's Yazan, and he's missing his front left end plate. So all the good work he put in the first. Oh, and he's gone straight into the wall.
And he's out.
And this will likely bring out a safety car.
Well, he's parked in the middle of the road.
The virtual safety car has been deployed. Not a full safety car, so the gap can stabilize. So Timolele is able to keep that massive lead.
Well, Timolele is coming round towards the pits now. Does he?
Oh, Raw 13's got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC.
And he will have to serve that. Now, he may be able to serve that right now, and you would assume that is exactly what he's going to do, because he will get a little bit of time off it. No, he decides to stay out. You would have thought the smart option here is to take it under the VCS, or the VSC, because you'll benefit a little bit of race time while everyone is limited to 40% race speed, but he opts to stay out.
VSC is now off. And Dingo has gotten a very good launch up. He's got the DRS on Raw as well. So it's going to be a very interesting move coming into turn 3. He decides to back out of it, though.
Smart move.
Making the patience game. Definitely a good decision.
Hang on to the back of the Ferrari as they fire their way through the end of Sector 1, and then potentially get on the DRS after the chicane, look to get a good exit. But that dirty air will affect him through these tight, twisty sections, such as this chicane coming up.
Well, I'm a bit surprised he didn't just go for it. I mean, he knows that he's got the kind of pace to match Timolele.
He's activated the overtake. He's gonna go for it coming into this fast chicane. It's a very difficult spot to overtake.
Gonna be interesting.
Makes the corner really shallow.
Made it work.
Very
that
well
is
done.
fantastic.
I mean, now the Mercedes 1-2.
And now if he can use that pace and pull away from Raw 13 whilst Ettore and Chamblizi get held up, it could be on for quite an easy Mercedes 1-2 here.
Not heard that one
Definitely
before.
King Walrus getting an additional 3-second time penalty on top of the 10-second seat already received. Raw 13, I believe he was choosing to serve his drive through now, though, as he doesn't have much to fight for in this position.
And Chamblizi
follows him into the pit. Chamblizi most likely going to be looking to put on those hard tires, and I do believe that is what those Haas employees are holding. But it looks like he's also got a new front wing, so that could explain his lack of pace here. That he had amazing pace in qualifying, but he hasn't been able to show it so far, and that could easily be an explanation. So the field, lots of people choosing to pit at this point too. The Ohe finds herself up in P4 after, I believe, qualifying in P11. And she seems to be taking it very delicately.
Dennis the Great in 5th in the original race. He was just plodding along in the midfield, and then when it came to the end, he had, I think he had no penalty whatsoever, and
Yeah,
managed to take the race win. I
there was
wonder
a
if he's
late safety car, and the almost everyone ahead of him had a significant amount of penalties, so he just found himself in P1 just based off of that. And as you can see, his cautious driving style ends up paying off here quite well,
Oh,
especially if it's a late
Codeman
safety car.
tried to go around the outside of Jock James and hit him. He understeered into him, and Jock James into the barrier at the swimming pool section.
And this is a full safety car,
we've got a
5-second
full
penalty
safety
as
car.
well for Codeman.
And so it begins again.
well.
Let's see
Smart
if
thing
this
now is
safety
to
car is able to drive a full lap without falling asleep.
smart thing to do now is just to pit for these guys ahead. They've done 10 laps. The hard tire will definitely work. I don't know if going onto the mediums is such a great idea, but they do have 2 or 3 laps behind the safety car where those tires basically aren't being used. So I think maybe we might see a split here of drivers going onto the mediums and
Okay,
going
has
onto the
decided to go
hards.
into the mediums, it looks like.
This is
Dennis the Great on the hards, Raw 13 on those mediums as well. That's very lucky for Raw 13. After having to serve that drive-through, he would have had to make another pit stop, but he basically gets it free this time. Chamblizi is able to pass almost everyone in the pits there, and he finds himself in P4 after having to make a pit stop the lap before.
And this has
So,
worked out brilliantly. Like, I was just going to say what you said there, that this has benefited Raw 13 hugely, but it's also benefited the likes of Ohe, who didn't pit, perhaps when everyone else that she was fighting did pit, and now she's benefited because she's up in P5.
Let's see now. Tim Malele will likely be heading into the pits, but it's going to end up double stacking with Dingo, and Dingo's going to have to suffer with from that. Tim Malele taking his
Interestingly,
coming into the pits.
we've seen AJ Hayter go from mediums onto soft tires. I'm not sure how much that will work out for him, because he will have to pit again. And the same with
He could be trying to go
Codeman.
soft potentially, but that's a very interesting strategy. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out for him. And yeah, as you can see, Dingo has to wait for that double stack. Not quite as long though as it usually is. He only loses about, I'd say, a second and a half there, but under the safety car, that doesn't make too big of a difference as long as he
He's
comes
gonna
out.
get out ahead of Ettore.
Who's coming for a wing change as well.
Yeah, so lots of wings being replaced here during the safety car period. Almost everyone choosing to pit here except for Chamblizi and Cookie, as well as King Walrus as well. Who he's gonna be happy to find himself to be able to catch up to the pack again, unless the safety car here decides to catch him, which it looks like it will actually do. So looking at the field now, we have 3 people on soft tires. That's very interesting, especially Codeman deciding to go with the soft tires after he started on the softs. He could have easily gone to the medium tires, and not easily, but he could have gone to the medium tires and made those last the rest of the race potentially. But he's gonna have to make another stop, so he's got quite a lot of overtaking to do. I think he might be banking on another safety car coming, which is a fair estimate, especially considering the last race that we had here in Australia. It had 3 full safety cars and 1 VSC.
Yeah, we managed to get a little bit further into the race before the first full safety car, I believe. We're about halfway. We're not there just yet, but so far things seem to be, and I don't want to jinx it, of course, but I'm willing to do that. Everything seems to be alright.
So Mylander seems to be actually driving the car with time instead of choosing to just let everyone by for some reason.
Yeah, 3 retirements so far, of course. Hamlin with a bit of an unknown disqualification, plenty of penalties, I think, on the opening lap of the race, and then Yazan ending his race prematurely. I'm not quite 100% sure why that was, and Jock James involved in that incident with Codeman, I believe, who would have picked up a penalty. And into the pits is that Trickfoot? Yes, it is. Trickfoot comes into the pits. And hopefully he'll be able to reattach himself to the back of the pack in time for the race restart, which you would presume is this lap.
A full lap behind, so he's going to end up being a full lap behind even after the safety car comes back.
It's a very odd decision because I think he's already been into the pits. He has. So this is his second stop for the likes of Trickfoot. Codeman and King Walrus, the other 2, who have 2 stopped so far.
King Walls nearly runs into the back of Timalele there. And these guys are maybe a little bit too aggressive.
And that's
Yeah,
you bring up that
it
King
sounds like
Walrus
just-
is between the 2 Mercedes. He's a lapped car as well, and that might be a little bit of a frustration for Dingo, and it could be a frustration for King Walrus because he's going to have to drop right down the grid to get out the way of everyone on this safety car restart, and he's got to find a safe way of doing that without causing too much chaos.
I believe the game will actually just immediately ghost him and give him a bunch of blue flags, which is very unfortunate. Unless the safety car will let him pass here in a second. But that's not looking like it's the case.
No, you would expect it to come in at the end of this lap. I think we've had enough laps under the safety car.
Yeah, there's definitely been a very long safety car. I believe it came out on lap 9, so this should be the last lap, but who really knows?
And
Here,
it
yeah,
is.
we
Yep,
get the
safety car
message.
in this lap.
Safety car in
Very
this
good
lap.
for the medium runners, Dingo and Timalele. We've got a Torre behind on hard tyres. We've got
Just
Chamblisi
Timalele bunching
behind
the pack
also on
up.
hard tyres. So if you would imagine that the 2 Mercedes would just pull away on the just on the tyre difference alone. But if a Torre and Chamblisi can stay with them, they'll get the speed towards the end of the race.
AJ Hader has received a track limits penalty under the safety car. Very unfortunate.
And are we going to see a rerun of Mugello here under this safety car? We hope not. We've had enough chaos already in the opening 12 laps as Timalele rounds the last corner and goes. And King Walrus is going to have to get out of the way here because Dingo... Oh, he's lost
Oh,
it!
he's
Walrus
gone
actually
to the wall.
spun. His tires
And it's
were like
another
too
safety car.
cold.
No, it isn't.
No,
It's
fortunately
okay.
enough, he's
He's
righted the
recovered.
wrong, but he has not got a front
got
wing.
a front wing though. And Trickfoot still a full lap behind him, and he's actually gonna make the pass on King Walrus now. Cookie's
There's that cookie
well.
that's gone round, and that's front wing damage, and that's yeah, that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, these
Yazan
soft tires, these cold tires catching a lot of people out here. It's very important you keep those tires warm during the safety car period.
We've got John Lemon on hard tyres has gotten past AJ Hater on softs, so he's really going for it now.
urged on.
Dingo's actually pushing quite hard here to try and save some.
Oh, and AJ Hater's run wide. And he's spun as well on the grass. Oh, that's gutting for the Williams of AJ Hater. Picked up a safety penalty under the safety car, and now the remainder of the grid goes through. Looks like he's going to get out just ahead of King Walrus, of course, without a front nose to his name.
The safety car restart has included a lot of missing front wings, unfortunately, for King Walrus, Cookie, and AJ Hater. But Dingo has actually done okay to try and stay at Timalele, considering that Timalele got such a good launch off that last corner. He was like almost a second and a half ahead alone by the end of the first straight. But as we see now, that gap just continuously increasing. But that gap also increases to a Torre as well, as Hamlin has now only just left the session.
I don't think there's anything those hard runners can really do to try and keep up with the 2
Yeah, I would agree with
Mercedes. And I think for the next couple of laps, they're just going to start pulling further and further ahead.
And Raw 13 behind Dennis the Great. Dennis the Great is actually on those hard tires compared to Raw 13's medium tires. He's going to be looking to make the pass here pretty soon. But the dirty air seems to be catching him out a little bit. He seems to just be a little squirmy on each exit. Codeman also similarly coming up from behind the John Lemon. But Codeman's on those soft tires compared to John Lemon's hard tires. So if John Lemon is able to hold Codeman off here, that would be extremely impressive. But Codeman is just going to have so much pace on those soft tires that he put on during the safety car period. But he is going to have to make him stop because there's no way he can pull these things all the way to the end.
Well, Ohei's in 5th place, and I mean, she's not had the best pace in the previous races, but being on the mediums compared to the guys in front on the hards might actually just pull her into the running here.
started P11, and looking further down the grid, with DRS now enabled, the likes of Raw 13 will be looking to catch up to the back of Dennis the Great, and Codeman as well onto the back of John Lemon on the harder tyres versus the softs. As King Walrus retires from the session, and I'm pretty sure that is just that's just.
He actually has
pure
not retired in
frustration.
the pit lane, so this could bring out another safety car. But it looks like that will not be the case here.
Fortunately enough.
That would have made things a little bit more interesting, considering the gaps have already quite widened quite a bit, and maybe those people in those softs will get a chance to hit again. The thing of getting a 3-second time penalty coming out of that fast chicane, I'm actually going to check the penalty situation right now, because that could easily make a difference at the end of the race here.
Tim Malele has got some incredible pace. He's already pulled 2.5 seconds over Dingo, and as we were saying, the hard tyre just doesn't have the grip in a lot of these very slow corners. They just don't have the mechanical grip to catch up as Tim Malele. It's the fastest lap of the race. Ettore about 3 seconds behind Dingo, and Dingo's 3 seconds behind Tim Malele.
You can just
Okay, so
see in that
out of the
long
top
shot,
6.
Tim Malele's gap. It's huge.
Yeah, so in the top 6, the only person without a 3-second time penalty is Chamblizi. So if he's able to stay with close to Ettore, then he should find himself on the podium towards the end of this race, but it's still have 13 laps to go. Anything can happen here. Codeman does make the move past John Lemon. And another retirement, Trickfoot, but he retires in the pit lane as well. So after starting with 16 people, we are now just down to 11 racers here.
Well, importantly, everyone's on the lead lap now, so they don't have to worry about back markers for a while. But yeah, that gap that Tim Malele is pulling on Dingo is absolutely incredible.
And there's a little bit of a 3-person train behind Ohei right now. But Dennis the Great is actually about to lose the DRS, but not quite. He's just hovering around that 1 second mark.
Have a lock up there.
And yeah, Raw 13 is able to capitalize off that. He's able to close up a bit closer to Dennis the Great.
Understeers a little
But
bit
it
through
looks
turn
like
14, round the
just
head.
trying
Dennis the Great has lost the DRS, so this will leave him extremely vulnerable to Raw 13 here.
Well, I think Raw 13 is a little bit far back at the moment, but possibly out of turn 1 down to turn 3.
Had a much better braking zone than Dennis the Great on the brakes a lot later, but just spun up the rear tyres as he got the overtake on perhaps a little too early. But he has.
Kept him right as the corner emerges.
And
He's
it's
going to have
just
to
not
wait
enough.
pretty much a whole lap now to do the
Raw
move.
13 has been, his rear end has been extremely squiggly. He seems to be not too confident with it as he tries to get the overtake on as soon as possible. But that does give you a lot of power, which can easily spin the wheels up. But he's able to stay pretty close to him now. And Dennis the Great is going to be suffering without this DRS coming back to the main straight and the run into turn 3. But until then, there aren't many overtaking opportunities unless Dennis the Great makes a mistake coming into this fast chicane here. See how he takes it.
This is the first apex.
Raw 13 getting a little squiggly at the exit
Once again, on the overtake.
Try to
the
dive
DRS
up the
is
inside. Oh, not really. Dennis does leave him room, but I think Raw 13 just thinks better of it. Knows that the best opportunity, just stay close here, as he nearly runs into the back of
very
him.
close
Talk about
to the
close.
back end.
That's not going to help him. But
And he touches the
And
grass,
not a-
goes a little wide at the exit, and that's going to put him about 6/10 back. So he's now got quite the hill to climb to
he's
get this
close
overtake down
enough
this
though
lap.
that if he takes this chicane well, which he doesn't really, he's just too far back now to make the move without a dive bomb.
Get another yellow flag in sector 3. I believe that's AJ Hayter and Cookie seem to be going at it for that final points paying position.
Yeah, it's all to play for still. No one really would want to pick up a DNF now because it could mean no points. The likes of Cookie, AJ Hayter at the back of the grid by quite a margin now.
Cookie just
That
gets
is a very valid
squeezing the
fight.
exit, and
Well, I
But
thought it
Dennis
was
the Great
the
has caught back up to Ohei. It's going to be very
I,
interesting to see how this battle develops here. I'm going to check the penalty situation. I believe both Ohei and Dennis the Great have 3-second time penalties. But I'm going to check Rock 13 right now, who has no penalties. So he might be just looking to stay within the 3 seconds. These people ahead.
I thought Raw 13 just didn't have the pace to match Timalele, and the rest of the guys were just getting held up behind him. But you see the gap now from Timalele to Dingo, 6.6 seconds in
No, this is definitely just Tim Lele being
about
blistering
6 laps.
quick.
He is unbelievable. And even with some penalties, he'll still win this race by a bit of a margin. We see Ettore kind of sticking with the pace of Dingo on the tyre difference, which means that last 5 laps or so, you would suggest that Ettore would have the pace advantage.
But definitely, especially because those medium tires will begin to fall off. Shamblizi just hovering around that 3-second mark behind Ettore. I believe he still has no penalties. So he's going to be trying to stay within the 3 seconds to hopefully snag that podium position, assuming that Ettore isn't able to close up on Dingo. We have yellow flag in sector 1,
safety
and that
car.
is Cookie out of the race. We're now down to only 10 runners.
And the safety car
Well, what
comes
do you
out as
do
well.
now then?
It's going to be a
If
very
you're
interesting situation what Timalele will do.
if you're
The
Timalele, what would
soft
you do?
tires. Oh my gosh, Dingo receives a penalty for
Oh,
speeding out of the
that's
safety car,
very
and that's
unfortunate.
Timalele
Timalele
is choosing to
stays
stay
out.
Stays out. So Dingo here, it's a drive-through penalty, so he will not be able to serve. Oh, and he's very late into the pits. Takes out the bollard with him. He won't be able to change tyres now. So hopefully he's happy enough with the 8 laps on his mediums. Oh no, he does.
I believe the safety car, there's a bit of an issue in this game where if there's a safety car and you go into the pits with a drive-through that you need to serve, it'll just pit you instead. That is actually what happened to SkyTube last week in a Division 1 race where he had to serve a drive-through, but a safety car came, and so they just pitted him instead. And when he went back out, he just got disqualified. So
I
he's
don't
going
know
to have
if
to serve that coming on the next lap.
I don't know if you can serve a drive-through under the safety car.
I think you can after you've already pitted though. But this is gonna be very interesting. Ettore choosing not to pit, as well as Shamblizi, Ohei, and Dennis the Great, and Raw 13 as well. Personally, I think that if I see Ettore or if I see Timalele choose not to pit, I'm going into the pits. I'm putting on the soft tires because they're
Gotta
gonna be
take the
so much
gamble.
quicker.
I
Definitely.
mean, he's so much quicker than these guys, and they've just got to think, how can we beat him? New softs versus old mediums surely do the trick.
Yeah, this
But
race is definitely gonna get very interesting with Dingo and those fresh softs. So he's gonna have to serve a drive-through penalty, which could possibly put him behind John Lemon, Codeman, and AJ Hayter.
He'll certainly have the pace advantage over them. And of course, fresh softs for everyone from 7th and down. Ettore here has to come into the pits, doesn't he? If he wants a chance at winning this race, he has to gamble on going for
think
the
it's-
softs.
I think at this point,
It's
though,
a
it's
bit
just going to be
late
a
now,
bit too
though.
late to head into the pits. Unfortunately, he would have needed to have done that last lap, and he'd just be right behind Dingo if he did. But that's not quite the case. So Ettore, I think, will be just happy in Dingo not serving his drive-through penalty under the safety car. So maybe you are right. Maybe you can't serve a drive-through penalty. Although I could have sworn that I saw Raw 13 serve one during last safety car.
You've got to hope that this doesn't disqualify him through really no fault of his own.
Just an interesting note here. Obviously, the correct choice for those towards the back is to go onto soft tyres. Interestingly, John Lemon has actually gone on soft tyres.
He's made the right choice.
And we
So
can
clearly the
I think
race
we've
engineer of John Lemon, his
Indeed.
girlfriend, doing working wonders. As he's now on, I believe it was going to be the correct strategy here, as he's just going to be so much quicker than everyone else in those old tires.
could be quite a good points paying position. So a lot of these guys on 10, 11, 12 lap old tyres. The ones on medium tyres will feel it more than the ones on hards, but that soft tyre advantage is going to be mega as we come into the last 7 or 8 laps, depending on how long the safety car stays out.
So at the moment, what are your predictions for the end of this race here?
Well,
Actually, I'll go
I
first. I
just
think
think
Timalele is still going to run away with it here, even
he's
though
just
we do
got
have some
so
runners
much
in the
pace, hasn't he?
softs. I have to agree. Considering that Dingo has to serve a drive-through, that just puts him so far out of contention for the lead at the moment. Maybe if things were a bit different, but even then he'd have to make up 6 positions before he could even get to him.
Safety car
It's a safety
in this
car
lap.
in this lap.
I think the top 3 will stay as is. I think these 3 have proven themselves race after race after race that they have just got buckets of pace. And
Definitely.
I think they'll finish 1, 2, 3. I think everything from 4th downwards,
It's really just
oh,
up in the air at this point.
it's too hard to call now. I think John Lemon's in with a really good shout.
John
I think
Lemon's definitely in a very good position.
Dennis is
He's
also
got
in a
pretty
good
solid
position.
pace.
They all back.
Codeman also has good pace as well, so
They all get backed
he's
up by
going to be following John Lemon
Timalele.
to the field.
Round the final corner and away they go.
Oh, he had such a fantastic exit of that corner. And he's
Okay,
just
caught
pulled
a
away
little
from
bit.
the tourway.
He's been caught a little bit sleeping here. She's already a second off the back of Shambleezy.
Oh, and there's contact. A front wing end plate off of somebody there. Trying to get an eye on who it
has
is.
dropped 2 positions.
Through turn 2. And
I believe
Dingo's
that's the front
already...
end plate of Dingo.
Oh no.
Dingo's not waiting around, just goes flying up the inside of Raw 13.
Oh, he's got
With
the
that
overtake
front
on.
wing damage, he's got so much pace.
And you can see the pace that John Lemon has as well. He just can't find a place to use it, and he's going to go all the way around the outside of Dennis the Great here, is he? Going to have much better braking. Dennis may be going too deep, and that's just going to help John Lemon. And he's going to go right around the outside, and he's got that move done. And now he's going to catch up to Raw 13 quite quickly, I would imagine.
So important for these soft runners to try and cut their way through the field against 13 lap old mediums and hards, and it could be a massive opportunity if they can get the moves done early on to reconnect themselves to what could end up being a podium position, because that is exactly what John Lemon and Dingo will be seeing up ahead of them.
Towards the end of the race, all the tyres are going to be performing much the same as the softs wear out and they lose grip. So this is the time now for John Lemon really to put the pace on. He's completely out of ERS as he comes up to the line. It's not going to help him catch up to Raw 13. But he might have the chance now.
He's being held up by Dingo. He's got the overtake on, and he's got a very good run coming out of him too, but it looks like Raw 13's also got the overtake activated, and he's not going to be close enough to make a move this time around. John Lemon, as we know, is very, very patient with his overtakes, and will not go for a move he doesn't think it will be 100 if it will work 100% of the time.
And yeah, you can just see how much pace John Lemon has, and he just can't. Oh, he's made a little bit of contact, but I think he's okay.
He is.
Didn't see anything fly off, but he's just through the corners so much quicker. Just to note, AJ Haters.
Very unfortunate. He has received a 3-second time penalty, so he's going to have to pass Ettore on track if he wants that. Dingo passes Ohei, coming into the fast chicane.
Got a really good exit out of turn 10 and through the turn 11, turn 12. Kink gets a good exit, DRS, overtake, the full works on as they fire their way down to turn 13.
He really is running that ERS dry, and he's run out for the lap. He hasn't got any more ERS for the lap. So
Dingo would be in such good position if he did not have to serve the drive-through. He heads into the pits now to serve it, and he has front wing damage as well. I think he'd be in for a good shot at the win if he
he got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well.
And his race just goes from bad to worse.
And Codeman passes John Lemon. Now, for John Lemon, I think he's got to be a little bit smart here. He's not got to fight Codeman, because for the incidents that he's been involved with on, I think, the first lap and then also taking out Jock James, he's going to be having penalties up the wazoo, so he's just going to have to perhaps bide his time. Of course, he's going to want to make up the positions on track, but he's got to be careful about who he picks his fights with.
I think Codeman here is going to be a bit more brave with these overtakes, knowing that he really has nothing to lose here. I believe he does have a 5-second time penalty, unless he served that during his last pit stop. I will check the penalty situation for Codeman. He has
Dingo is
he's 6 seconds worth of time penalties and a 5-second time penalty that he has already served. So he's got to make up quite a lot of time on Raw 13, who only has a 3-second time penalty.
Luckily for Dingo here, he's got, as we see, Codeman, John Lemon and Raw 13 all very close to each other. But these straights just aren't very long in Australia, and Codeman looking to get the move done in the corners. Going to be brave to do it through there. Raw 13
He's
goes
gone to the grass,
wide.
and John Lemon also goes wide, but he's able to take that position in front of him as well.
And Dennis the Great going around Raw 13. It's all gone wrong in one corner. And it's so easy to do a coulthard there and just lock up and completely lose it. And 3 positions he's lost.
Codeman's going to be looking to close up to Ohei at this point. He's on significantly older tires as well as a harder compound. The pace advantage, you can see that the delta is just closing. But actually, Ohei is showing pretty decent pace on these during the second stint.
Yeah, she's 5 seconds behind the lead pack, as we kind of assumed she would be. Codeman has always been up there in these races. The 2 Haas drivers, very, very quick and very consistent. Not quite quick enough for the race wins, but I think Codeman's gonna pull himself into 4th place here before the end of the race, especially with the tyre difference.
So just double checking on the penalty situation up at front, we still have 3-second time penalties for everyone at the front of the grid, but almost, I think Timalele and Ettore are both on 2 warnings. So they're very close to getting that next time penalty, which could definitely make things very interesting.
Well, Ettore is actually now staying with Timalele, 2.4 seconds behind. So if Timalele does get a penalty, Ettore is in that range. And I think we're now seeing the switch from medium to hard, where the hard tyres are starting to not get more grip, but those medium tyres are just getting worn out. And it might just help Ettore.
All Timalele has to do is just keep it clean for 3 laps, and he's got this win secured. Codeman, though, has been closing about a second a lap to Ohei. Turns on the overtake now. He's got almost nothing left in the battery.
This is a bad place to try and overtake. You just want to a little bit too fiery on the accelerator, but you really just want to keep it behind here and then get a good exit through this very fast left-right.
Codeman is really just sucking that battery dry. Oh, but Ohei goes on the grass. Exit. But Codeman gets another penalty. That's going to be 9 seconds with the penalties being applied at the end of the race here. So he could drop down significantly.
Yeah, I think he will, and I think for John Lemon this is big because he can now let Codeman go off into the distance, and now it's opened up an opportunity to pass Ohei on much better tyres. John Lemon, and faster tyres, but he spins up the rears, gets a little bit antsy, and now
Ohei with a really bad exit.
Very solid exit. And John Lemon's going to get this position quite easily down the main straight.
John Lemon up to P5.
With a penalty from Codeman,
he's
looking like he's in a very solid position for that 4th spot right now.
Indeed. Chamblizi unable to catch up to Ettore on the differing tyre strategy. Like you said, perhaps that... well, actually, no, they're on the same tyres, aren't they? So Chamblizi on 2 lap older hards. But he's got to pass him on track because of the penalty situation.
Well, unfortunately for the Haas drivers, they always seem to be racing themselves, really. They're not quite quick enough to catch up with the guys ahead, but not slow enough to be involved in the midfield scrap. So for them, it might as well be doing time trials. Codeman, however, has had a very interesting race. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, but he's in 4th place at the moment. And pulling a bit of a gap, certainly to Ohei, not quite to John Lemon.
John Lemon picked up a time penalty there as well, so that could prove crucial depending on the penalty situation for Ohei, but dropping 2 seconds back now on those older medium tyres. John Lemon actually catching or keeping up with Codeman and could end up passing him on track here. DRS is going to close up even more, but he's run his overtake dry right at the start of the lap. Onto the penultimate lap.
John Lemon has nothing to gain by passing Codeman. This Codeman has 9 seconds worth of time penalties, while John Lemon only has 3. So as long as he's able to stay within 6 seconds of Codeman, he is secure for that 4th position. There would need to be some major mistake made by John Lemon here to fall out of that range. Coming out to these final laps, Timalele has just shown absolute masterclass here. I don't think he's not led a single lap around this track.
I believe he's
Dingo
also the
received
fastest lap.
after the same time penalty, but he is just all the way at the back. He's just pushing his heart out right now. At least he's going to be able to get those 2 points from that P9. But he very easily could have been in with the shot at the win without the drive-through or the wing damage.
Yeah, well, it's an okay race to have such a poor race, because he will still get points out of it. Even AJ Hayter, bless him, 38 seconds off of Dingo, but will still pick up a point for his efforts. As Timalele finally breaks the 3 seconds over Torre, so even if he does get one more penalty, he will still be safe just.
Shamblizi, I think Torrex made some sort of mistake, because Shamblizi is also closed up to almost within a second now. But he's really gonna have to pull off some amazing last lap in order to get that final position on a Torre. But it's not looking possible at the moment. Raw 13 as well, following closely behind Dennis the Great. Seems to be falling behind a bit in the dirty air though. And it's looking like this race is all but settled. The top 3 having 3-second time penalties. Codeman having 9 seconds. He's going to drop behind John Lemon and behind Ohei, unless he can pull out another second on Ohei in these last final corners, which would be quite impressive, considering that his softs are now also probably falling off at this point.
Shamblizi really is going for it, but here comes Timalele round the final corner, and it's another win, and it's another Mercedes on the top step.
And very well done from him. Like I said, he made no mistakes, and he's going to end up with a win at this one. Torre P2 and Shamblizi P3 make up the podium positions. Very well deserved for all 3 of them, I'd say. Despite the lap 1 incident, Shamblizi has recovered. As we see Codeman drop down the order, will Ohei be able to get to the line in time? Not quite. Codeman keeps that 5th spot. And now we're just waiting for Dingo and AJ Hayter to cross the line. AJ Hayter wishing that he might want to forget this race, despite him still earning a point.
Yeah, it's not going to be great seeing the winner come across the line when you've only just started your lap, really. But it's been a fantastic drive from Timalele. In fact, the front 3 in general have done really well today. A little bit of controversy circling John Lemon and potential crashes. Same with Dingo for that first lap incident. And it's going to be a race to forget for Dingo, I think.
Definitely. You're so close to really making something out of this race, but just not quite. Just falls a bit short with penalties. And I'm almost certain he's going to be a bit more careful in the future for the safety cars.
Well,
and the game assigns driver of the day to John Lemon, but I would have to give it to Timalele here. He made no mistakes and just came out on top. It's a very well-deserved win in my point of view. What are your guys' thoughts on driver of the day?
I've got to agree with you there. He had a really poor race in Canada. Had the pace again, but you know, in his home race, just as soon as the rain came down, he was sitting duck, really, nearly a lap behind Hamlin in the end. But he's bounced back and Wow, that pace today was unbelievable. Shame for him with all the safety cars, but could have won it by a whole lap.
And Tom, what are your thoughts on driver of the day?
Well, I've got to agree. 2 safety car restarts, and they never faced Timolele one bit. Managed to get fantastic exits from 2 opportunities for those behind him to get the jump. He made, well, no, didn't make hard work of it, but the game certainly made hard work of giving him that win. But he powered on for the victory, and well deserved. Big shout out though to John Lemon, the game, assigning him driver of the day. But a much better strategy race, I think we can all say was much improved over the last few races. And
I'd just
Definitely.
like to,
Go for
just
it.
like to note quickly that Timolele obviously qualified on pole, won the race, fastest lap. I think he did lead every single lap as well. So this
Yeah, I think he did
could
as
be a
well.
grand slam for him. I'll have to check it back just to confirm, but yeah, can't get better than that really.
Yeah, so like we said, runner-up for John Lemon. I also have to add Ohei to that as well. Both of them not making too many mistakes, and strategy-wise, they were doing pretty solid as well. John Lemon, though, finally able to get a race where he makes the right call, and he finally gets a position that his pace shows. He ends up in P4 in the race. It's very well deserved from him. He's been just a bit off that for the most of the season because of those strategy calls, but here we are now, P4, very solid race from him.
absolutely, and that brings an end to the Australian Grand Prix Round 4, or Round 1 redone for Division 3. We'll be back next week for the full complement of Division 1, 2 and 3 racing in the PC division, as well as Xbox and PS4 here at the r/Formula 1 Racing League. And a fantastic win for Timolele today, of course. Next week we'll be back at Italy, Monza, I believe, on October 3rd for Division 1 and 2, and October 4th for Division 3. Thank you very much for watching. I've been joined today by Kate Matic and Mark Hopkins. And
Thank you.
I've been Tom Mack. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.